What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. Captain Deadwake here, your blue-collar captain, and we've got another Ironclad video for you. This one coming as a special request from Commander Tanith. So shout out, my friend. Thank you so much. The goal of this video is to talk about how I use the Ironclad, give some examples as to how you could better use your own Ironclads, anywhere from where you park your ship, what type of configuration you're running, whether you're keeping other ships on it as a carrier, or if you're just running straight hauler. You know, my choice being base versus some of you that might have the assault, and a lot of this stuff is interchangeable, so it doesn't really matter which one you have, aside from the part where we discuss the ship's tractor beams, which, to be honest, until they do actually update them, are next to useless. Aside from some very specific scenarios of maybe removing stuff out of your Ironclad that is otherwise too heavy for your rifle. Now, what you'll notice with this ship is that, you know, since launch, it's had a lot of bugs. Some of you might know that I probably have, if not the most, in the top % of the most time flying this ship since it came out. From all the bugs, from it killing me, from everything you can imagine, the pressure bug, the disconnection bugs, the random ruds where you explode, all of the stuff that comes with the chaos of having the Ironclad before 4.8.1, and even after. Granted, after, the problems have been mostly with the game and the back end, the server glitches, more than the Ironclad itself. That is to say, there's a lot of suggestions here that revolve around like Alt F4ing out of the game and rejoining to correct things like your positional desync or any other number of issues with like your MFDs or your third-person camera, if that's your big concern. I mean, the biggest tip that I can give you right here at the start of the video is do not, under any circumstance, disconnect your command module from the main body of the Ironclad after you've called this ship or claimed this ship. If you want to have the least buggy experience and not have any issues with your life support systems or disconnects or anything like that, do not undock. If it's an issue with your third-person camera, you can literally adjust that by holding down F4 and using your arrow keys or page up, page down to move your camera around to better accommodate what you need for maybe landing. But we'll get into how to land this thing like a pro a little bit later. All that's to say that, yeah, it's annoying and dumb and understandably frustrating that we have to do all of these workarounds that we have to do for the Ironclad, but it is what it is. We can complain in the comments, we can talk about that, we can talk about CIG, everything down below, all they're trying to do. The point of this video, though, is to give you the best, least frustrating, manageable way to enjoy this ship the way I have for quite a while, and some other folks in the OLISAR group like Angie Frog who have really enjoyed this ship, even with all the bugs and problems that it's had while we've had it. So I'll give you a real quick rundown of the components that I use in this ship, because my goal is to always be the smallest footprint, stealthy, hard to find. So my base loadout for the base Ironclad is actually a full ballistics build all around. I just went ahead and put deadbolts everywhere. Anywhere that I could have guns, there are just deadbolts. Your laser weapons, they actually give you a higher energy signature or an EM infrared signature than your ballistic stuff, and it also takes more power to power them. It's easier just to run the ballistics in that sense. Not that I really ever have much of a crew outside of, shout out to Froggy and Wolverine and even Angie Frog sometimes, people that'll come on the Ironclad that are able to jump into those turrets if we need to. In general, running with a low signature mindset, I just go full ballistics. Outside of that, my power plants are the Ion Surge Pro. They're a grade B size 3 civilian power plant that you can buy 2 of for like 180K, so pretty cost effective. And they've been more than enough for what I've needed. You don't need to go crazy with the Durango power plants and such. On the cooler front, we're running 3 Frostbites because they are the grade B stealth minimal 2 power pips, and I can put that power where I need to. I love that. Shield-wise, we are running the 7CA Nargun size 3 Class A shields, or civilian grade A shields. So when I turn those on, they've got great regen, great health, and they're there when I need them. And on the quantum drive, of course, I am running the Erebus. If you want to go a bit more stealthy, you can run like my boy Malice Draco does with the Ranger, the grade B civilian drive. I am running the grade A for its overall top speed, since I spent a lot of my time in Pyro, and it just allows me to overall to be fast, to be quiet when I need to go dark, kill a lot of my power, to bring my EM signature way down, since again, like I've said plenty of times before, cross-section is an active measure now. You have to ping to see somebody's cross-section. So you can have a really big ship that gets by relatively quiet, unless you have somebody hunting you and actually pinging you constantly to see your cross-section. Now, a real quick note on why I go base versus the Assault is I am not in a situation where I'm going to really be using those repair bays, and I would much rather have that extra gridded cargo space to put what I want there, whether it's my own mining bags, my fabricator, because the Assault fabricator doesn't even work yet, as well as the store all crates, and having the versatility to choose if I want anything in my, port or starboard aft cargo grids, the smaller ones of the first two that are more forward of that, the 720 on each side. You have the smaller ones in the back that are replaced by that are replaced by the repair and rearm bays, which you also have to carry the materials for, and you would need to be in a position where you're in combat needing to rearm and repair enough to actually justify the use of those things. Honestly, if it was up to me, my dream Ironclad would fly from operations, would have one vehicle repair bay, so the other one is cargo, wouldn't have the weird cattle pens up front, would actually have the armory, would have the fabricator on starboard side, just like the Assault does, would have the quad size 5 base turret. Honestly, just mix the two Ironclads into one badass Ironclad, and I'd be there for it. Outside of that, though, because of the way I play, the base is just the way to go. It's what I prefer. And that's both with hauling and carrier ops, because I can have all my stuff organized in the back, still have more than a C2's worth of cargo space up in the front. Typically my starboard forward section, that's 720 gridded space, because my port side usually has like my Golem Ox, my Buccaneer, or maybe a Talon. I've been having some fun ideas thinking about how to run that thing with the Ironclad. But put simply, that's why I just prefer the base. I love it. I've been flying it from the beginning. Christina and I have a special bond now, especially as many times she's tried to kill me. So I wouldn't even dream of switching. Now, one other quick note that I've brought up with whole C videos and such, and that's the use of the speed limiter. You can find your default options under the game settings where you can have it default on, which I do, and then you can just use your speed limiter as a parking brake to completely stop you, because as a lot of you know, I fly decoupled. I feel like decoupled is the ultimate experience. It's the only way to really get the finesse that you can out of the way I fly, and a lot of people that have been flying for a long time do. I feel like eventually anybody who flies a lot, you'll find your way to the decoupled experience, because it is just the better all-around way to fly in the game. Coupled is like having your training wheels on, and it's fine for a while, but eventually taking that leap off. Go check out the guide videos I have on the channel for decoupled flight, and learning how to handle your ship in decoupled flight is just the best way to do it. The only time now that I really run coupled is if I'm in thick atmosphere and I want to get out, so I'll turn cruise control on, because you have to have coupled on for cruise control, and then I'll just set it and forget it, sort of autopilot mode, and blast out of the atmosphere, and then I kill that, go back to decoupled when I'm ready to fly myself. All that's to say, though, that the speed limiter, whether you're coupled or decoupled, is a fantastic way to keep yourself stopped. By default, it is left alt plus your scroll wheel on your mouse if it is on, and you'll always see the little bar moving over your throttle indicator. And if you have it set all the way to 0, it doesn't matter what you do with your throttle, you're not going to move. You can still roll, pitch, yaw, all of that, but your ship will not actually thrust in a given direction, just like it's a really good handbrake. That's an awesome way to lock yourself in place when you're in front of cargo elevators, like you actually see here when I'm, moving the prospector around, getting it out of the ship. It's a great way in general to keep yourself stationary on planet side when you're mining or whatever the case. Speed limiter is something everybody should get acquainted with. Now, getting into one of the reasons that people end up disconnecting the command module, it's to reset their third-person camera so that they can better land in like top-down hangars and such. Well, we'll check out this next part of the video where I actually walk you through how I land top-down in a hangar to show you my method, learned, as I say in this part of the live stream, from flying the Caterpillar as much as I did. I do, again, wish we had those proximity lights. Yeah, but check that part out. We'll talk about it just afterwards. Your best bet, since this is the part of the ship that you can always see, and I love the Caterpillar for this, the Ironclad doesn't have it. The Caterpillar has blinking, bright proximity lights, and they're amazing. They're what I use to really master this technique. You use the blinking, bright white proximity lights to really tell how close your nose is. And of course, this is decoupled. I also have decoupled flight guides on the YouTube channel that I'll probably update here soon with some, extra tips and tricks for larger ships. But you want to come in at a comfortable speed. I'm decoupled. I usually fly in around 20 to 50 meters per second. I am aiming to have myself kind of centered in the command module, slightly to the left, and then I am aiming to put the nose where my headlights are pretty much at this axis, at this line where I'm moving my velocity indicator. And as I come up to this decoupled, I start to pull back, which starts to drop. You see that? It starts to drop my direction, my velocity downward. And I basically try to pivot. Think about Ross and Friends. Pivot on that front axis right there. right on that leading edge, just like that. And it brings my ass down. I mastered that move. Look at that. In the Caterpillar. And it brings you right in every time. Of course, landing gear down helps. We're going to go ahead and drop our gear. That is how you first person land a Caterpillar or an Ironclad. So again, with that example, we were decoupled, but you can see how you don't need to use your third person camera to land in these top down hangers. And you know, the hangers where you just pull straight forward, those are pretty easy. Top down though, if you practice that method, you're gonna get it. It's gonna feel good, you're gonna feel accomplished, and it'll also alleviate your reliance on that third person camera, which sometimes even I use. It has its usefulness. But again, until they fix the third-person camera problems, just remember, holding F4 and using your arrow keys or your page up, page down to move that camera can be a great workaround that saves you the trouble of having to leave the game with the Alt F4 method or disconnecting your command module and reintroducing a bunch of bugs that you didn't have if you had just left it alone. Next, I want to talk about elevators. Because I know I've seen a lot in the comments. People are struggling with elevators, whether they are in your hangar, they're external, or they're planet side. I said this in my Make Millions in Pyro guides and videos that you need to scout them out, guys. If you are loading up your ship with a bunch of cargo, and then you go down to an elevator that you haven't visited yet, and it doesn't work, you messed up. You did. Go down there first. And if you're new to this, it makes sense that you might not be as familiar with the elevators that you regularly visit. If you're following my advice and working around Gaslight, your most common ground elevators are going to be at Sakharin's Plot, Chala's Beach, Ashland, Fallow Fields, which again, Fallow Fields, if you know, at your own risk, you might go boom. Some people have had luck with it. Shout out to Hazard Shield. I have not. I pop every time for some reason. Could be a skill issue, let's be honest. That aside though, if you know where you're going, it does not take long, 5-10 minutes, to take a small ship, go there, and check the elevators. It's a real easy tip. If you're rolling your eyes at this, then you're just going to deal with the consequences if you show up at a broken elevator. But if you listen to me, you go down, you see the elevator isn't working, what do you do next? Server hop, leave the game, join again, join on another friend, join on somebody else. Again, guys, throw your gamer tags down in the comments if you're comfortable doing so. Add each other as friends so you have more options for game shards to jump in on. Now, we know now that since my last video, they've made changes to how you view shards. You don't see the player count anymore because there was an exploit going on where people were abusing that system. Nothing that I advised, but something else that, I'm not going to discuss exploits or anything to that nature because I'm not here to break the game or to cause any extra problems, but to give you guys tips on how to get the best experience you can. So that said, yeah, adding each other and being able to join on more different friends gives you a chance to join on different game shards, which is another way of saying server when it comes to Star Citizen, because to get technical, you have a shard with a bunch of servers in it that control different planetary locations around the 3 solar systems. So for the sake of this video and anytime I mention shard, you can just think of it colloquially in other games as like joining a different server when you join a game. Now, anytime you go to join a shard, they have their special little names like Resourceful Aerogel or Excellent Milky Way, whatever. So when you're joining those other friends, if you're seeing it's the same one, you can cancel or try a different method by choosing like Best, US, Asia, Australia, whatever, to try to mix up the shards you're in to see if you can find an elevator that is functioning. A lot of these places too, Ashland, Sakharin's, all these places, they usually have more than one elevator. Some of these places have 3. So also try all of them, because if one of them works, there's a good chance that for the entirety of your grind session, they will keep working. If this sounds like too much work for you, I don't know if Star Citizen is your game. Gonna be honest. These are just the ways that you can try to mitigate and get around the problems rather than loading up like we are now with all this cargo, going down to a station and it's broken and you getting mad that the game is in the state it's in. So you've gotten the tip, use it. Now, when it comes to your ship configuration, I'm about to talk about mothershipping versus just cargo hauling. There are a couple of troubleshooting points that I want to put out. A lot of the times when you get back in your Ironclad, all of your MFDs are blacked out. They're not responding. It's annoying. Don't disconnect your command module. Again, number 1 tip, just Alt F4, come back in the game if you really want that fixed. If you're okay with resetting your power pips, you just power cycle the ship. When it comes to the black MFDs, you can just hit U on your keyboard to turn everything off and then flight ready, whatever your flight ready button bind is, and it will turn everything back on. The thing is, it's going to mix up your pips again. So you're going to need to go back into your power management and kind of mess around if you like to run low signature, whatever. There are methods around that. Now, the other one does require Alt F4, and it's when you're in your smaller ship and you're trying to find the Ironclad again, whether you're in a Golem, Buccaneer, whatever ship you're using, Prospector, Vulture, whatever, and when you leave the ship and then it's not registering that it's in the place it's supposed to be in, that is a positional desync. It is also one of the things that leads to you randomly taking damage and exploding. Anytime you are worried or getting some heebie-jeebies about positional desync or things not quite being right where they should be, Alt F4 and jump back in the game. Trust me, guys, these 60 to like 90 seconds it takes to Alt F4 and rejoin your shard are going to be worth the mitigation of the headaches of having lost your mothership. The lost mothership positioning issue for me has been a 100% success rate since the Ironclad came out for getting it to show up where it's supposed to be. So the second it is not where you thought, like you have that thing over Pyro 4, or you're between a couple of the moons around Pyro 5, but for some reason it's saying your Ironclad is 50 gigs away, 50 GM away, that's a very obvious sign that you need to Alt F4 and rejoin the game. And for anybody who doesn't know, it simulates a crash to desktop when you Alt F4. So you will not lose your mission progress or any of the missions you have on. You will spawn right back into the same place. It will not lead to a shard lock for your character as long as you don't try to force your way into a different shard. You rejoin the same game, even rejoin on somebody is in that same shard. It's pretty hard to mess this part up. So just Alt F4 and rejoin, your ship will be where it's supposed to, you can fly back to it. That will also fix your third-person camera for a while. It'll fix a few things. Alt F4 is kind of the universal fix to a lot of problems in this game. Nav bugs where it keeps blinking out and won't let you select a nav location, which again, guys, hit R on your keyboard instead of clicking on the green button in the bottom left to navigate. You will thank me for it. Like once you click a place to navigate and you have the green bar in the bottom left that shows you can select it, hit R on your keyboard. Sometimes you can mash R on your keyboard to get it to pop up, and then you can nav. But again, Alt F4 will also solve that most of the time. All of this comes with a caveat of most of the time very high chance it fixes things. It's a Star Citizen after all. The last quick thing we'll talk about here is your ship configuration. Are you planning to run your Ironclad as a carrier or just for pure hauling? A lot of the previous things we've already discussed will already help you for carrier ops. Now, the main point for this section is actually your method of retrieval when it comes to the ship. And by that, I also mean where you keep the Ironclad while you're working. Now, it can be good practice if you've got multiple ships on board and you're going to a central area that you plan to work out of, like if you're in Crusader where a lot of the stuff is all around those moons, or if you're around Pyro 5 and Pyro, Nyx isn't really applicable here because anywhere in Nyx, you're likely going 60 plus kilometers to find whatever mission or objective you're looking at. But in Pyro and Stanton, if you're in a localized area, you can typically park your Ironclad and then operate out of it using your smaller ships. This is one of two methods that I call kept aloft, where you keep the Ironclad away, out of danger, off the beaten path, however you want to say it, like we are here on screen. We're actually flying to a part away from where we just entered the orbit of Pyro 4 from Quantum to create that distance to then go low signature to then operate out of the Ironclad where nobody can find us. Because unless you have a party marker or you are literally like within 20 kilometers of a point of interest, like any place you can quantum to, players cannot find you. Now, if you're that close to stuff, you made a mistake. You got to get farther. I often recommend a minimum of 50 kilometers away from any point of interest. I would say 100 kilometers is your best safe bet, and then you set yourself into your lowest signature possible by powering things down, and also keep, your head on a swivel. But the more you think like this, the less and less likelihood of somebody finding your main hub of operations. They might find you and your little ship actually going to Sakharin's plot, but rest assured all of your stuff in your Ironclad is safe, either in orbit up here where we are, or 50 to 100 kilometers away down on the surface using your Golem Ox or whatever ship you're using to accomplish your goals, your main base of operations. And if some of you who likely will want to have a Nursa on board can respawn back on the Ironclad and keep the good times rolling. Admittedly, the kept aloft method is a bit more of a mindset shift. I am one of those people that will slow down and live in the verse. I will have my Ironclad parked in orbit. I will run cargo down with the Ox. It does not bother me that it takes a little bit longer to ferry cargo back and forth or to find different areas down on the planet where I'm doing mercenary work. And this is another reason that the Ox outshines things like the MPV, or the Buccaneer outshines things like the Pitbull or the Fury, because we have quantum capability and we can actually go where we want to go to accomplish our missions and then rendezvous with our Ironclad to drop off loot, to bring back mining materials, to bring back cargo, whatever it could be. This method also carries over to when you're going to like your space stations to actually drop things off at like freight elevators. If you've got a cargo tug like the Ox or whatever you need to carry stuff over to a station, you can park anywhere between the station and where you are. Typically, I like to get within a gigamometer, a gigamami, a gothmami, however you want to say it, a GM away from a station, and that is where I will disembark out of the Ironclad and take my stuff to the station and then come back to the Ironclad, which is untouchable by other players. Again, it's safe. The other side of this situation is station kept, where you decide you're going to risk it. This goes beyond just actual stations too, like going to external freight elevators or landing in hangars, but also includes landing right by elevators on planets or moons where you're dropping stuff off. Station kept means you are just going for the speed. You're going and getting as close as you can, taking that risk of engaging with other players that are likely going to be at these points of interest for the sake of speed, time, impatience, whatever it might be, or just your preferred playstyle. Maybe you're confident that you can gank anybody who would cause you problems, or you just don't care, or you've not really experienced much of the issue that would cause you to want to be kept aloft, so you're willing to, get up close and personal. I do a mix of both. It depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I want to set up like we have here with our mining bags and our Buccaneer and our store all crates and stuff. We're kind of set up to kind of chill out where we're at, go the distance with our smaller ships. We're not in a rush. We're taking our time. And that is really going to be a player-to-player experience that you have to decide for yourself. This also dovetails nicely into our last point, which is your method of cargo transfer with the Ironclad. If you're station kept, this is what really applies, because if you're kept aloft, you're using a ship like the Ox to transport your stuff, so that takes care of that. But if you're station kept, you're either next to your drop-off point down on a planet or actually at a station. You have several methods. You have your max lift tractor rifle, you have your handheld multi-tool tractor option if you want to use that. You've got the onboard ship's tractor beams if you have the base Ironclad, you have the ATLS, and you have, again, the Ox, if you want to use it the way that I do when I'm planet side, where I will set the Ironclad down next to the elevator, I'll hop in the Ox, and I will use it to, as you would probably an MPV, or maybe like your own rifle, just from a different vantage point, that we can easily drop cargo down, fly down, drop the elevator, raise the elevator, rinse and repeat. My most common method personally for on-load offload is using the good old trusty max lift rifle. Whether I am outside of an external freight elevator, just dropping stuff directly into my Ironclad or raising it out, or I will actually climb the starboard gantry to go to the external elevator on starboard side up to the roof. I'll run around usually to the forward port edge, and then I will just tractor stuff over down to elevators or into the freight elevators inside our hangars, whatever the case. It's been a pretty quick and easy method. Some folks, because some of y'all are just ATLS lovers, man. You got to have your ATLS. Some of them will actually tractor the ATLS up to that same spot on the upper catwalk area and then use their ATLS to tractor things from the ship's internals to a hangar or elevator. If you want to do that, you can. It's fine. It is not fast enough or efficient enough for me to recommend it as the way you should do it. You have to deal with a very clunky system of tractoring the ATLS, which is always annoying to me. It's weird, it glitches around, sometimes it doesn't want to follow your tractor beam, and then you got to place it in the right spot, hope it doesn't clip through the ship or fall off or move in some weird way, and then go up to it and then get in it, position it, find your positioning, hold down your free look, move the cargo. I have always operated on the mindset of keep it simple, stupid. The best part is no part. An engineer's mindset of simplicity rules. So it's a lot simpler for me just to run my ass up to that catwalk and do it with my rifle than to spend all this extra time on the ATLS. But where the ATLS does shine is when you're at an external freight elevator and you're tilted up toward it and you got a bunch of 32s, then you can use the ATLS on board to fling that cargo onto that elevator so fast. That said, though, another tip on these elevators that hopefully most of you know by now is you better not put any cargo on any elevator anywhere until you have interacted with that terminal and allowed for the elevator to give its potential reset. Now, Sacks of Wine, SE Haulers, did an awesome video recently on how much money you can make in Pyro and talked about this quite a bit in his video about the elevator resets, and that if you put your cargo down first and you hit that terminal and it does its reset, you just lost all that hard work. That cargo's gone. I've had like maybe one lucky circumstance where the cargo's been stored, but I think that was a case of somebody else interacting with it, so it did a storage thing. I don't know, it's weird. Most of the time, it just disappears, man. So before anything else, touch that elevator terminal. At least interact with it. Hit F on it. and sort of claim it as yours before you hop in that ATLS and you start throwing cargo on that elevator. Especially if you're doing commodities trading where you're actually paying your own money to move this cargo. What better way to get angry at your game session and rage out than to touch the terminal and all of your cargo disappears? You don't want to go through that. Last note on the tractor beams is I will say that as of now, until they actually update them, which I'm making this video in 4.8.1, so we haven't had the rumored fixes or improvements to tractor beam range of motions. But the onboard ship's tractor beams have very niche specific use cases where they make sense. When you have crew, we had Froggy actually killing it in that forward tractor head. She hit S, deployed the arm, and was moving 32s while we had like 3 or 4 people on the Ironclad that day. We were throwing 32s around. I was in the elevator organizing. She was at that forward tractor head pulling things out of the front and throwing the 32s in. So like when you have multi-crew, those tractor beams make a lot more sense because you can actually kind of throw things around for other people to grab. But if you're solo, I don't ever really touch them. I'm either using my rifle, I'm using the ATLS depending on the circumstance, or I'm using the Ox to throw everything around. And it's unfortunate. I hope that going forward, tractor beams are made by the devs in a sense that says, hey, is there incentive to actually use this? Or does it just make more sense for time, speed, comfort, whatever, to use other resources, whether it's your rifle, the ATLS, an Ox, or even the command module once it is good to undock, which it isn't right now. Don't do it. Awesome tractor beam use on it when it works, but it's not worth all the bugs that will wake up. So yeah, there's my little critique to the devs for tractor beams. Stop putting stupid arbitrary limits on them with range of motion, height ceilings, and all of that. It makes no sense, man. These are remote tractor turrets. They should have full actuation, be able to move around like they can on the Nomad, the Ox, the Rafts. It makes sense if you have some limitations with manned stuff because there's only so much a bigger turret can move. But the remote stuff, that should have 360, 180, full degree, or 90 degree, whatever, to have like a full envelope of anything around you. There should be no arbitrary limits to your range of motion like on the Hull B, like currently on the Ironclad. It's just, it's not smart. It makes no sense. Last little tip I'll throw in here, just in case you don't know, is the weird refueling show hints bug. Make sure you go into your game options and just toggle show hints on and off anytime you do Alt F4 in this game or rejoin, because that fueling issue, or the hint being up, will prevent you from seeing any of your mission or party invites or game notifications. So make sure you toggle that just for simplicity's sake. Outside of that, though, I think that's pretty much all I got, guys, on the Ironclad for today. Let me know what you thought of this video. Hopefully, Commander Tanith, I hit a lot of the points that you were curious about in this. If not, I'm always down to make more videos. More stuff coming. I know the Raylan is coming real soon. This is coming out hopefully today, Wednesday. I expect the Raylan to be dropping with Alien Week launching later today or tonight, honestly, with the way CIG does their updates. I'm not expecting it to actually happen while we're on live or while we're on stream, but we'll see. Maybe we'll be surprised. So updated video coming out on the Hermes and, more Ironclad stuff, mining stuff, all kinds of stuff. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you want to see from me. I hope you find value in this. You enjoy the content. If it's not informative, at least it's entertaining to some degree, and I will catch you all in the next one. Take care.